The book describes the author's journey from a life filled with anxiety and depression to becoming a spiritual teacher. One night, he experienced a profound transformation that led him to a state of deep peace and bliss. He realized his true nature as consciousness, separate from the suffering self created by the mind. The book alternates between addressing the false aspects of human consciousness and guiding readers toward a transformation of their own consciousness. It emphasizes the importance of recognizing the truth within oneself and experiencing enlightenment in the present moment. The author encourages readers to go beyond words and concepts to discover their inner knowing. The book draws from various spiritual teachings to convey a timeless message of inner transformation and awakening. Chapter 1 of the book, The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment by Eckhart Tolle, explores the concept of enlightenment and the obstacles that prevent individuals from experiencing it. The chapter begins with a parable about a beggar who discovers a treasure within himself. The main message is that many people seek external sources of happiness and fulfillment when they already possess a profound inner wealth. Tolle explains that enlightenment is not a superhuman accomplishment but a state of felt oneness with being, a deep sense of connectedness with an immeasurable and indestructible reality. The inability to feel this connection leads to the illusion of separation and the suffering that arises from it. He defines enlightenment as the end of suffering and emphasizes that it is not limited to a select few but is a potential for everyone. The chapter also introduces the concept of being, which is the inner essence that transcends the mind and can be accessed through stillness and presence. Tolle clarifies that being is different from the traditional concept of God, as the latter has been misused and often reduced to a mental concept. The greatest obstacle to experiencing enlightenment, according to Tolle, is the identification with the mind, which leads to compulsive thinking. He argues that continuous and uncontrolled thinking is a common affliction, and most people are unaware of it because it is considered normal. This constant mental noise creates a false self, fosters fear, and generates inner and outer conflict. Tolle suggests that individuals can free themselves from their minds by observing their thoughts without judgment, thus creating a gap in the stream of thinking. This practice leads to a sense of inner stillness, peace, and the awakening of a deeper self. The chapter concludes by introducing the idea of meditation and the importance of being fully present in daily activities to access a state of no mind and inner peace. In summary, Chapter 1 of The Power of Now delves into the concept of enlightenment, the obstacles to experiencing it, and the role of the mind in perpetuating suffering. It emphasizes the importance of presence, stillness, and self-awareness as tools to break free from compulsive thinking and access a state of inner peace and oneness with being. The most crucial step toward enlightenment is learning to disidentify from your mind, as it allows your consciousness to grow stronger. This involves not taking the content of your mind too seriously. Your mind is a tool, but much of its thinking is repetitive, useless, and harmful, leading to energy drain. Compulsive thinking is an addiction stemming from self-identification with the mind. Enlightenment means rising above thought, not losing the ability to think clearly. It involves using the thinking mind when necessary, but in a focused way, allowing for inner stillness and creative thinking. The mind is a survival machine, not a creative one. True creativity arises from inner stillness. Emotions are reflections of the mind in the body, and observing them is as important as observing thoughts. Love, joy, and peace are deeper states of being beyond emotions. Emotions are subject to opposites and often tied to external factors. Real love and joy are unchanging and part of your true nature. Pain and suffering arise from cravings and desires. The key to freedom is being present and observing the mind rather than seeking fulfillment in the future. Pain, both emotional and physical, is inevitable as long as you're identified with your mind. It can be caused by past pain still active in your consciousness. Ceasing to create present pain and dissolving past pain is essential for true transformation and enlightenment. In Chapter 2 of the book, titled Consciousness, The Way Out of Pain, the author discusses the concept of living with pain and sorrow rather than avoiding them. The author emphasizes that much of the pain we experience is self-created, arising from non-acceptance and resistance to the present moment. The more we identify with our minds, the more we suffer as the mind habitually denies or resists the present moment. The author points out that time and mind are inseparable, and the mind seeks to escape the present moment by dwelling on the past and future. This accumulation of time in the mind leads to suffering and the persistence of past pain. To alleviate this suffering and stop creating more pain, The author suggests making the present moment the primary focus of life, accepting it without resistance, and surrendering to what is. By observing the mechanics of the mind and breaking free from its resistance patterns, one can experience inner freedom and true inner peace. The chapter also explores the idea of the pain body, which is the accumulation of emotional pain that leaves a residue in our minds and bodies. The pain body can become active when triggered by various situations and can lead to negative thoughts and behaviors. The author advises becoming aware of the pain body, observing it without identification, and ultimately transmuting it through conscious presence. The chapter concludes by discussing the origin of fear, which the author attributes to the ego's fear of death and annihilation. The fear arises from the mind's projection into the future and can manifest as various forms of anxiety and unease. The author suggests that disidentification from the ego and living in the present moment can free individuals from this fear. Furthermore, the chapter touches on the ego's search for wholeness and how it often seeks external things to fill a perceived sense of lack or incompleteness. However, these external identifications are temporary and do not lead to lasting fulfillment. Overall, Chapter 2 explores the concepts of pain, resistance, the pain body, fear, and the ego's search for wholeness, emphasizing the importance of living in the present moment and disidentifying from the ego to find true inner peace and freedom. In Chapter 3, titled Moving Deeply into the Now, the author discusses the concept of being fully present and emphasizes the importance of disidentifying from the mind to achieve spiritual enlightenment. The chapter highlights the following key points. 1. Identification with the mind. The author asserts that many people believe they need to understand the complexities of their minds to attain consciousness or spiritual awakening. However, this is not the case. The problems of the mind cannot be resolved by delving deeper into the mind. 2. Ego's endless needs. The ego, driven by fear and want, constantly seeks to attach itself to problems and suffering. This attachment reinforces a false sense of self rooted in the mind, preventing true spiritual growth. 3. And the delusion of time. The author argues that the mind and time are intertwined, and living solely in the past and future, driven by memory and anticipation, prevents one from fully experiencing the present moment. 4. The preciousness of now. The present moment is described as the most precious thing because it is the only reality. The past and future are mere illusions, borrowed from the now. 5. Spiritual dimension and presence. The chapter explores how presence in the now is the key to accessing the spiritual dimension. Various spiritual traditions, such as Zen, Sufism, and Meister Eckhart's teachings, emphasize the significance of the present moment. 6. Accessing the power of the now. The author encourages readers to practice being fully present by observing their thoughts and emotions without judgment. This practice leads to a shift in consciousness and enhances one's ability to use time and the mind effectively. 7. Letting go of psychological time. The chapter distinguishes between clock time and psychological time. It suggests using clock time when necessary, but returning to present moment awareness afterward. Overall, this chapter underscores the transformative power of living in the present moment and letting go of the mind's constant preoccupation with past and future, which is essential for spiritual growth and self-realization. The passage discusses the concept of time and its impact on our lives, emphasizing the importance of living in the present moment. It suggests that when we excessively focus on future goals, we lose touch with the present, leading to psychological time, which can be detrimental. The passage also highlights the negative consequences of excessive focus on the future, such as ideologies that justify harmful actions in pursuit of future goals. Furthermore, the text argues that the present moment is all we ever have and that psychological time is a source of suffering and problems. It encourages readers to embrace the now, stating that problems are mind-made and can be dissolved by being fully present. The passage discusses the potential for a quantum leap in human consciousness, leading to a profound transformation and the ending of time. Ultimately, it suggests that by focusing on the present moment, one can experience joy, ease, and lightness in life, and actions can be imbued with quality, care, and love. In this state, external goals can still be pursued, but they are no longer driven by fear, and there is freedom from attachment to outcomes, leading to a sense of success already achieved. Chapter 4 of the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle discusses the mind strategies that people use to avoid being in the present moment and how these strategies lead to suffering. Tolle explains that intellectual agreement with the idea that time is an illusion is not enough. One must actually live and experience the present moment to make a difference in their life. The chapter explores the concept of ordinary unconsciousness as a state where people are identified with their thought processes, emotions, reactions, desires, and aversions, leading to a continuous low level of unease or discontent. Tolle suggests that people often use various distractions like alcohol, drugs, food, and more to numb this unease. Tolle emphasizes the importance of self-observation and being aware of one's mental and emotional state. He suggests asking questions like, "Am I at ease at this moment?" and observing one's thoughts and emotions. The chapter also delves into the concept of resentment and resistance to the present moment, highlighting the harmful effects of such negativity on oneself and others. Ultimately, Tolle encourages readers to drop negativity by recognizing its futility and choosing to let go of it. He explains that deep unconsciousness may require acceptance and sustained attention, while many patterns in ordinary unconsciousness can be dropped once one realizes they have a choice and can access the power of the now. The passage discusses various aspects of living in the present moment and the importance of being conscious of one's thoughts and emotions. Here is a summary of the key points. 1. Negative emotions. The text suggests that labeling emotions as negative creates a mental polarity of good and bad. The negativity arises when the mind judges the present moment as bad, leading to negative emotions. 2. Accepting emotions. Instead of judging emotions as bad and repressing them, the text advises accepting all feelings that arise without judgment. It emphasizes the importance of accepting and acknowledging one's emotions. 3. Choice and awareness. The text prompts readers to reflect on whether they would choose suffering or joy, unease or ease, and suggests that deep awareness can prevent the creation of negative emotions. 4. Humanity's actions. It mentions the destructive actions of humans, emphasizing that such actions are not in alignment with their natural state of well-being. 5. Next stage of acceptance. The text suggests that acceptance of negative emotions is just one stage. The next stage involves not creating those emotions in the first place through deep awareness and true acceptance. 6. Ordinary unconsciousness. The text highlights examples of ordinary unconsciousness, such as complaining, resisting the present, and waiting for the future. 7. Stress and fear. It discusses how stress is caused by being focused on the future and not fully present in the now. Fear also arises from projecting into an imaginary future. 8. The inner purpose. The text talks about the inner purpose of life's journey, which is about the quality of consciousness in the present moment rather than future achievements. 9. Dealing with the past. It advises against dwelling on the past as a bottomless pit but suggests dealing with it as it manifests in the present. The power of the present moment is emphasized in dissolving the past. Overall, the passage encourages mindfulness, being present in the now, and accepting one's emotions without judgment as keys to living a more fulfilled life. Chapter 5 of the book discusses the concept of presence and how it differs from our usual understanding. It emphasizes that presence cannot be grasped by the thinking mind and can only be experienced directly. The chapter also explores the idea of waiting as a form of presence, where one is fully alert and attentive to the present moment, similar to the analogy of a servant waiting for their master's return. The text touches on moments of no mind, referred to as satori, where one briefly experiences pure presence and insight. It suggests that such moments are glimpses of enlightenment. The author emphasizes the importance of stilling the mind to truly perceive the beauty and sacredness of nature. The chapter delves into the evolution of consciousness, explaining how consciousness identifies with forms and how this identification leads to suffering. It suggests that the process of awakening from this identification is part of a larger cosmic event, and discusses the potential consequences of not achieving this shift in consciousness, including increasing conflict and destruction. Overall, Chapter 5 explores the nature of presence, its significance, and its role in the evolution of human consciousness. In this passage, the author emphasizes that there is nothing personal or individualistic about the teachings. They are not being taught by a separate person but are expressions of consciousness itself. The author points out that words are merely pointers to the truth and that silence can be an even more potent carrier of presence. The text discusses the concept of Christ or presence, highlighting that these terms refer to one's indwelling divinity, regardless of whether one is conscious of it. The author explains that the idea of past or future in Christ is a misunderstanding, and that Christ represents a timeless, eternal presence beyond the dimension of time. The second coming of Christ is described as a transformation of human consciousness from time to presence, rather than the arrival of a person. The author advises against personalizing Christ and highlights that enlightened teachers or masters are not special individuals, but are more ordinary than they appear. They suggest that those drawn to an enlightened teacher already have a degree of presence within them. The passage also discusses the benefits of group work in intensifying the light of presence and creating a collective energy field. However, it warns against dependency on group work, a teacher or a master, emphasizing the importance of developing one's presence independently. In this chapter, the author explores the concept of being and its connection to the physical body. The author emphasizes that understanding being cannot be achieved through intellectual analysis, but is instead a direct experience that transcends the limitations of thought. Being is described as the ever-present I am that goes beyond name and form. The text discusses the idea that identification with the physical body is an illusion, and that the mind's constant thinking prevents individuals from being in touch with their deeper self. The author suggests that to connect with being, one needs to shift their attention away from compulsive thinking and direct it into the body. This inner journey involves feeling the inner body, recognizing it as an invisible energy field that underlies the physical form. The author also addresses the historical tendency of religions to condemn or deny the body, viewing it as a hindrance or even sinful. The disassociation of the self from the body is discussed as a common practice, but the author argues that true transformation and spiritual realization occur through the body, not by denying it or seeking out of the body experiences. Overall, the chapter highlights the importance of recognizing the deeper reality within the body, and the need to move beyond the "you are not your body" belief to achieve spiritual awakening. In this text, the author discusses the significance of the body and the practice of being present within it. The author emphasizes that all spiritual teachings originate from the same source, and that the key to accessing this source is through the inner body. The text introduces the idea that the physical body is not the ultimate reality, but a misperception created by the mind's limitations. It suggests that by inhabiting the inner body, individuals can connect with the unmanifested, the source of consciousness. This practice is described as a way to slow down the aging process and strengthen the immune system. The author also highlights the benefits of practicing presence and inner body awareness, including enhanced psychic immunity and the ability to handle challenges more effectively. The text provides practical exercises for readers to connect with their inner body and offers guidance on forgiveness as a means of self-healing. Additionally, the text encourages the reader to use conscious breathing and creative thinking in conjunction with inner body awareness. It emphasizes the importance of listening not just with the mind but with the entire body to create meaningful and harmonious relationships. Overall, the text promotes the idea that by connecting with the inner body, individuals can access a deeper level of consciousness, experience physical and emotional well-being, and establish more profound connections with others. Chapter 7 of the text discusses the concept of accessing the unmanifested, which is described as the source of all things, a realm of stillness, peace, and pure consciousness. The chapter explores various portals to connect with the unmanifested, such as the inner body, the now, the cessation of thinking, surrender, and the awareness of silence and space. It emphasizes the importance of being present, disidentifying from the mind, and cultivating stillness to access this deeper dimension of existence. The text also touches on the idea that love is not a portal but rather a result of connecting with the unmanifested. This passage discusses the concept of space, both external and internal, and its connection to the unmanifested, which is described as the source of all things. It highlights that space is essential for the existence of the manifested world and that it is the externalization of inner space, representing stillness and vastness. The text suggests that space is a portal to the unmanifested, and by becoming aware of it, one can experience a shift in consciousness. The text also touches on the interplay between space and time, comparing them to the attributes of God, infinity, and eternity. It emphasizes that the true understanding of space and time lies in their inner equivalents, which are no mind and presence. Furthermore, the passage discusses the importance of the world and its role in spiritual realization, stating that the world enables the unmanifested to know itself, and individuals play a crucial part in this process. Lastly, the text briefly mentions the portal of conscious death, which opens briefly at the time of physical death, and can lead to spiritual realization. It suggests that this portal does not result in annihilation but rather the dissolution of the false self, allowing one to realize their true nature. This passage discusses the concept of enlightened relationships and how they contrast with addictive relationships. It emphasizes that true enlightenment and fulfillment cannot be solely dependent on a romantic relationship, as that would involve seeking salvation in the future and relying on external factors for happiness. The text also delves into the dynamics of love-hate relationships, highlighting that when individuals confuse ego attachment and addictive clinging with love, they often experience oscillations between intense love and hostility in their relationships. It suggests that true love has no opposite and that clinging to a partner as a means of salvation is not genuine love. Furthermore, the passage addresses addiction in relationships, explaining that addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through one's pain. It asserts that all addictions start with pain and end with pain, and avoidance of relationships does not solve the underlying issues. The text concludes by offering a solution to transforming addictive relationships into enlightened ones. It suggests that intensifying presence by being fully in the present moment, disidentifying from the ego, and practicing acceptance of one's partner as they are can lead to a more authentic and enlightened relationship. It emphasizes that love, joy, and peace can be found through acceptance and the cessation of judgment. This passage discusses the nature of love and its connection to enlightenment, emphasizing that love is a state of being that resides within individuals and is not dependent on external factors. It also explores the idea that all love is ultimately the love of God and that love should not be selective or exclusive. The passage delves into the challenges and opportunities presented by relationships, highlighting that they can serve as a spiritual practice and a means of personal transformation. It suggests that cooperation, presence, and non-judgment in relationships can lead to a deeper connection and a reflection of the love that exists within. Additionally, it touches on the role of gender and spirituality, suggesting that women may be naturally closer to the state of being and enlightenment due to their embodiment of the unmanifested. This text discusses various aspects of spirituality, relationships, and gender dynamics. It highlights how the concept of God has been influenced by the human mind and societal structures, leading to a male-dominated society. The text also suggests that while there is value in addressing the balance between male and female representations of the divine, true spiritual growth transcends concepts and images. It emphasizes the need to go beyond the mind and reconnect with a deeper sense of being, which is described as having qualities more closely related to the female principle. The text mentions that both men and women can access this state of being. The text further discusses the collective female pain body, which includes both personal and collective aspects of emotional pain experienced by women throughout history. It suggests that women have the potential to transmute this pain into consciousness, especially during menstruation. Additionally, the text mentions that even in a state of full consciousness, the attraction between men and women, as well as the desire for relationships, may still exist on a superficial level. However, true fulfillment and completeness come from recognizing one's interconnectedness and oneness with the universe. Lastly, it touches on the idea that being gay can be an advantage in the path to enlightenment, as it may lead individuals to question societal norms and patterns. However, it warns against developing a rigid identity based solely on one's sexual orientation. In conclusion, the text suggests that true fulfillment in relationships and in life comes from being at ease with oneself in the present moment and transcending societal conditioning and identity-based constructs. In the state of enlightenment, having a relationship with yourself is not necessary. When you have such a relationship, you create a duality between you and yourself, which is the root cause of complexity, problems, and conflicts in life. In enlightenment, this duality merges into one, and you no longer judge, pity, love, or hate yourself. The split caused by self-reflective consciousness is healed, and there is no need to protect or defend a self. When enlightened, the only relationship you no longer have is the relationship with yourself, and all your other relationships become love relationships. In this chapter, the author explores the distinction between happiness and inner peace. Happiness is often dependent on positive external conditions, whereas inner peace transcends external circumstances. The author discusses the idea of attracting only positive conditions into one's life through positive thinking and highlights that the concept of positive and negative is relative and may not always be clear-cut. The author emphasizes the importance of accepting what is, as this acceptance leads to inner peace. Even in challenging or painful situations, there is a deeper lesson and a sense of peace that can be found. The author suggests that forgiveness of the present moment is crucial, as it prevents the accumulation of resentment. The chapter also touches on the nature of suffering, the cyclical nature of life, and the impermanence of all things. The ego's resistance to change and its identification with external conditions are discussed, and it is suggested that true peace comes from accepting the impermanence of life and not clinging to external circumstances. Ultimately, the chapter encourages readers to let go of their attachment to the drama of life and find peace in accepting the ever-changing nature of existence. Inner peace is described as the joy of being and the peace of God, transcending the duality of good and bad. This passage discusses various aspects of human suffering, happiness, and the role of negativity in our lives. It highlights how people often tie their identity and happiness to external conditions, such as wealth or appearance, leading to suffering when those conditions change. It emphasizes the impermanence of all external circumstances and how true joy comes from connecting with one's inner self. The text also suggests that negativity can serve as a signal for us to become more present and mindful. It encourages us to let go of resistance and accept the present moment. By doing so, we can transcend the polarities of the mind and find peace even in the face of challenging situations. Furthermore, it suggests that lasting inner peace is not found through external practices or seeking but through fully accepting our current state of being, including our lack of inner peace. This acceptance can lead to a transformation of our inner state and ultimately bring about true peace. In summary, the passage emphasizes the importance of connecting with our inner selves, letting go of resistance, and accepting the present moment as the path to inner peace and spiritual awakening. This passage discusses the nature of compassion, the interconnectedness of all life, and the transformation of consciousness as a means to create a better world. It suggests that true compassion goes beyond empathy and sympathy, encompassing an awareness of shared mortality and immortality. The text explains that the world we perceive is a reflection of our state of consciousness, and that the egoic mind creates a world dominated by fear and separation. It emphasizes that the primary task is not to seek salvation through creating a better world, but to awaken from identification with form. By doing so, we can find peace and help others at the level of cause, as our presence and peace can have a healing influence on those around us. The passage also addresses the idea of physical immortality, stating that the body and death are part of the same illusion created by egoic consciousness. It emphasizes the importance of transcending egoic delusion to access a different order of reality. Lastly, it discusses the role of compassion in alleviating suffering and suggests that compassion should be balanced with the recognition of the eternal nature of all life and the illusion of pain. It encourages individuals to work on both the levels of effect and cause, raising awareness and disseminating information while maintaining inner peace and non-resistance. In this chapter, the concept of surrender is explored, emphasizing that true surrender is not passive resignation but rather an acceptance of the present moment unconditionally and without resistance. Surrender involves yielding to the flow of life in the present moment, and it does not mean giving up on making positive changes or taking action. The text clarifies that surrender focuses on the present moment, accepting what is without judgment or resistance, while also acknowledging the potential for action and change in the future. Surrender is contrasted with resistance, which creates suffering and separation. The chapter highlights that surrender is an inner phenomenon and should not be confused with indifference or apathy. It encourages individuals to be present and observe their resistance when it arises, acknowledging it and letting it go. Surrender is presented as a way to access spiritual energy and transform one's life, bringing about a higher vibrational frequency and a different quality of consciousness. Additionally, surrender is discussed in the context of personal relationships, where it can lead to greater acceptance and understanding of others. The chapter suggests that surrender primarily concerns one's inner life, but has a profound impact on outer conduct and relationships. The importance of non-resistance in daily life is emphasized, with a focus on inner peace and acceptance of the present moment. Surrender is presented as a path to freedom from external conditions and suffering, leading to a state of inner peace and transformation. This passage discusses the concept of surrender in the context of dealing with suffering, pain, and challenging situations. It offers guidance on how to approach suffering and use surrender as a transformative tool. 1. Observation of defensiveness. It begins by suggesting that when facing conflicts or arguments with others, it's essential to observe how defensive one becomes or how one reacts to attacks on their own position. This reaction is attributed to the egoic mind, which seeks to protect one's beliefs and opinions. 2. Acknowledging the egoic mind. The text encourages acknowledging the mental and emotional energy behind the need to be right and make others wrong. This is seen as the egoic mind's energy. 3. True surrender in conflicts. True surrender in conflicts is described as letting go of the entire mental-emotional energy field that was fighting for power. It involves dropping the attachment to one's position, which is different from merely verbally admitting defeat. 4. Non-resistance in the face of violence. Non-resistance does not mean doing nothing. Instead, it implies non-reactive action. It mentions the wisdom of yielding in Eastern martial arts and emphasizes the importance of inner non-resistance and alertness. 5. Transforming illness and disasters. Surrender is discussed in the context of illness and challenging life situations. Surrender involves accepting the present moment without resistance, even in the face of illness. It suggests that the label of illness can empower suffering, and true surrender allows for inner peace and transformation. 6. Transforming suffering into peace. The text explains that suffering arises from resistance to what is, and surrender involves accepting both external conditions and internal feelings. It encourages facing emotional pain fully without trying to escape or label it, as this can lead to inner peace and healing. 7. Surrendering to suffering. It addresses the difficulty of surrendering to suffering, especially when pain is deep. It emphasizes the importance of facing the pain, feeling it fully without creating a victim identity, and refraining from turning away from it. 8. Moving into the feeling. The passage advises moving into the feeling of pain and staying fully present with it, without creating a mental story or script around it. By doing so, one can bring consciousness and light into the darkness of suffering. Overall, the text presents surrender as a powerful tool for transforming suffering and challenges into opportunities for growth, inner peace, and consciousness. It emphasizes the importance of presence and acceptance in facing difficult situations. In this passage, the author discusses the concept of surrender and its relationship with consciousness and suffering. 1. Surrender through full attention. Surrender is equated with full attention and acceptance of the present moment. By giving full attention to the now, one taps into the power of their presence, which eliminates hidden pockets of resistance. Presence removes the element of time, leading to the dissolution of suffering and negativity. 2. Acceptance of suffering as a journey into death. Accepting suffering is described as a journey into death. By facing deep pain, allowing it to be, and directing attention into it, one enters this process consciously. It results in the realization that there is no actual death, only the egoic self dissolves, leading to a sense of liberation. 3. The Way of the Cross. The passage acknowledges the Way of the Cross as an old path to enlightenment, characterized by surrender through intense suffering. It implies being forced into surrender due to unbearable pain. 4. Enlightenment through choice. The author presents an alternative path to enlightenment through conscious choice, where individuals relinquish attachment to past and future and focus on the present moment. This choice eliminates the need for suffering. 5. The Power to Choose. The discussion addresses why some people seem to choose pain in dysfunctional situations. The author clarifies that this is not a conscious choice but rather a result of unconscious patterns and mind conditioning. Only by accessing the power of the now and presence can one make conscious choices. 6. Responsibility and forgiveness. The passage explores the idea of responsibility and forgiveness. It suggests that true forgiveness and responsibility arise from a state of full consciousness and presence, rendering the past powerless. 7. Realization of surrender. The author points out that when one has truly surrendered, they no longer need to ask how to know if they have surrendered. Surrender itself becomes a state of being. Overall, the passage emphasizes the importance of presence, surrender, and conscious choice in transcending suffering and attaining enlightenment. It challenges conventional notions of forgiveness and responsibility, and suggests that true transformation occurs in the present moment.